Sir, our HOD is yet to join. Let us start, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir. I warmly welcome once again all the participants of ECE for this wonderful event by our eminent professor, Dr. R. Srinivasan. He is one of the pillars and one of the guide for my PG studies. I warmly welcome you, sir, for this wonderful lecture. The participants are from our UG and PG students, sir. To give a brief intro about you, I welcome our PG student, Ms. Muthu Manjula. Muthu Manjula, you can give.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
We are grateful to you for accepting our invitation and becoming a chief guest for today's webinar. I am profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the chief guest for the day. He is none other than Dr. R. Srinivasan, sir. Dr. R. Srinivasan, sir, obtained his MS degree from the Department of Electrical Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras in the year 1998. He received his PhD degree from the Department of Electronical Communication Engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in the year 2007. To his credit, he has 34 journal papers. He has experience in both industry as well as in academics. Since December 2007, he has been with the Department of Information Technology in SSN Engineering College. His research interests including image processing, anamorphic images, VLSI, nanoscale transistors, micro and nanoscale electronics, and analog circuits. He has supervised 4 full-time PhD scholars and 5 part-time PhD scholars. He has executed 2 projects worth rupees 21.8 lakhs and 31 lakhs sanctioned from DST, Government of India, and DRDO, Government of India, respectively. We are so honored to have you here in this morning, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I stop?
Yes. You can also give me permission.
Yes, sir. You can start. You can have.
Yes. Okay.
It's already given, sir.
I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, Markandan, is it visible, the presentation?
Yes, sir. It is. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yes. Thanks, man. Okay. First of all, I thank Markandan. Let me take this liberty because he was a student here. So you all will be calling him as Sir, but I am calling him as Markandan. I hope he doesn't mind. Okay. So this talk, I have named it as a Silicon Devices, CMOS to RFET. Most of you would have heard about what is CMOS. Maybe some of you would have heard about what is RFET. Okay, anyway, we will look at that. So this talk has 2 parts. In the first part, very fundamentally, we would like to understand one particular thing. In the second thing, we will move on to devices. Okay, so part 1. So what are we going to talk about in the part 1? So we are going to talk about what is called as the switches. So what is so great about a switch? We all know about switch. Maybe let us just, many things are taken for granted. One of the thing is a switch is also taken for granted. Okay, so first of all, let us define what is switch. So a switch, the one which controls some kind of flow, and that is called a switch. What are the flows we know? Maybe there is a water flow, so something like this, or there is a air flow, or there is a dust flow, or there is a electron flow, and you can just keep on you can keep on with some other list. Okay, you can include some other flows also in this list. Okay, there are some flows. So just go back to our definition. What is a switch? It controls some flow. Maybe it controls the water flow, maybe it controls the air flow, maybe it controls the dust flow, maybe it controls the electron flow. Depending upon the context, the switches will receive different names. Okay. So actually, if you look at we have heard about so many technological jargons like electronics, microelectronics, nanoelectronics, MEMS. Okay, there are so many things are there in the air. What are they doing actually? What the total electronic industry or the computer industry or the IC industry is doing? They are all trying to get a good switch. That's all. It's all about getting a good switch. That is the one way I will put it to you. If somebody is asking what these electronics people are doing, as of now they are trying to get good switches. That's all. So now when I said good switches, first of all you should know what is a switch, then you should know what is a good switch. Okay, so that essentially means that you have to understand what is a good switch. So what is a switch? A switch is some kind of input you give to the switch, and what is the switch going to offer you? It is going to offer you control flow by doing on and off. Okay, for example, here is a switch. What is the input I am giving? And first of all, what is it controlling? It is controlling can any one of you from the participants, can you tell what it is controlling? Is it controlling a water flow or electrical flow or air flow?
Electrical flow, sir.
Beautiful. So it basically controls the electrical flow. What is the input for this switch? Again, I ask anybody from the participants. What is the input you give to achieve this electrical flow control? It is your force, is it not? So using this finger, you are trying to make it on and off. Basically, the force is the input, and using that force, you are trying to achieve current flow or the electrical flow, electrical current. Current means the flow. Okay, electrical flow you are trying to control. So in that way, can you tell me, is it a switch or not? Anybody wants to offer?
Yes, sir.
What it is controlling?
Water flow, sir.
Water flow. Okay. So basically it is a tap. Okay. The tap is nothing but a switch. So basically what it is trying to control, it is trying to control the water flow. What is the input? Again, some answer from the audience.
Pressure, sir.
Pressure or the force, whatever you apply in this particular knob. Okay, so that is the input. And what is it trying to control? It is basically, there is a overhead tank, okay, and there is some kind of vessel in between this overhead tank and the vessel or the bucket. There is a switch. What is that switch? Which is nothing but our tap. So basically this switch connects your tank and the bucket or the kind of vessel. Okay, so in the same way, what is this switch trying to do? Can anybody tell what it is trying to connect? It may be trying to connect the mains. Okay, so there is a mains with fuse barriers, fuse switches and everything, and there is a electrical equipment. Maybe it may be a fan. Okay, so there is a fan and there is a main electrical supply, or you can say the EB, electricity board. In between this, our switch is sitting. I mean, this switch is sitting. Okay, and it is basically what it is doing. It is connecting the electricity board or the mains with your fan. That's all it is doing. So for that purpose, what is the kind of input it is taking? It is taking your force in order to make this. So now this kind of switch, okay, it is called mechanically controlled mechanical switch, because force here, I mean our mechanical force, using our hands, whatever you exert, that is a mechanical force. And what it is trying, it is basically trying to control the water flow. I mean, which is a mechanical flow. Basically, a water tap is an example for mechanically controlled mechanical switch. I hope that is clear to you. So now let us move on to what is called as the electrical switch. What is the electrical switch? It tries to control the electrical flow. Okay, so that is the electrical switch. But the input could be anything. It may be mechanically controlled electrical switch, something like this, because what this switch is trying to do, it is trying to connect the two ends. Okay, so there is a EB and there is an electrical equipment here. Okay, maybe it is a fan. So basically it is an electrical switch you have to have in between. So that how this electrical switch is operated using the mechanical force. So this is a mechanically controlled electrical switch. I hope that is clear. Now we will move on to what is called as the one more kind of switch, that is called the electrically controlled electrical switch. So now when I say electrically controlled, the input is not going to be the force, it's going to be some kind of electrical signal. Maybe it is an electrical voltage, or maybe it is an electrical current, or maybe it is an electrical power, or something related to electrical which is going to receive as the input, and the switch is trying to control the electrical flow. That's what is the electrical switch. Now, we are interested only in this electrically controlled electrical switch. That is why I have boxed it in the, I have put it inside the red box. Okay, so we are not interested in the mechanically controlled electrical switch. We are interested in the total electronic industry. If you want to say microelectronic industry, if you want to be more modern, you can say nano electronic industry. Okay, if you want to be computer science oriented, then you can say computer chip industries. They are all concerned about what is called as the electrically controlled electrical switches. Okay, so that's what we are trying to worry. So now, if you take a small 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, maybe that's all. Okay, it's a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter area. Within this, I am going to put 1 million electrically controlled electrical switches. Think about the number. Okay, 1 million switches. Definitely that cannot be a mechanically controlled electrical switch. You can assume the dimension of this. The dimension of this switch itself is the 1 centimeter cross 1 centimeter. Okay, so that's why we are only going to concern about, or we are going to bother only about the electrically controlled electrical switches, because they can be made so small compared to the mechanically controlled electrical switches. So because of that size difference only, we are choosing this particular thing, not this electrical switch. Even though this is an electrical switch, it is a mechanically controlled electrical switch. We are not talking about this particular switch. We are bothered about, we means the VLSI industry, or the microelectronics, or the nano electronics. Okay, now you see here, in the 1 centimeter cross 1 centimeter area, you would like to put 1 million switches. What may be the size of the switch? What may be the area occupied one switch? Anybody wants to give a quick computation and going to tell me? Within the area of 1 centimeter square, I want to place 1 million switches. What is the area occupied by one switch? Anybody want to volunteer? Quick answer. Okay, so let me, but I leave that to you. Okay, so basically what is that actually? It is a 1 centimeter square divided by how many switches you want? You want 10 power 6. So that will give you definitely the dimensions in the micron or in the sub-micron region. That is why all the VLSI industry, you will see their dimensions, they are talking about only in terms of micrometer, not in the centimeter or the decimeter or the kilometer or the meter. They have to talk only in terms of micrometer. Okay, because they are trying to accommodate 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter in that area. They are trying to accommodate switches something like a 1 million, something in this order. Okay, maybe 10 million. Okay, or nowadays people are talking about 1 billion. So that means definitely you are all the way you are moving from your switch size is all the way going from micrometer to nanometer. Okay, so that is the area. We call that as a nano electronics in that context. Okay, so now there are some funny or interesting facts about the VLSI. Okay, so if you take the, so when I have so many switches here and there, there are so many switches. So there should be a connection between the switches. Something is connected with this, something is connected with this, something is connected with that. There is a, that's called the wiring or the interconnection. Okay, if you open a typical microprocessor, something like a 8085 or a Pentium processor, or maybe something else, a very new processor. So you will see, you can easily see 2 kilometers of interconnections of wire. Are you understanding? Again, I'm telling, what you are talking is the 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter area. Okay, 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square area. Within this, you have a wiring. You all understand what is the wiring. It is nothing but the wiring, one point to another point connection. So you have 2 kilometer lengths of wires that is used in this 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Now you can think about the thickness of the wire. It's going to be very, 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 very thin. Okay, so just for a comparison, consider our human body. The human body, actually everywhere we have a blood vessels. So the blood vessels, if you measure all the blood vessels, put it in a straight line, if you measure, that will run up to 150,000 kilometers. Okay, obviously it may look really very, very huge because it is just 2 kilometers, and here we are talking about 150,000 kilometers. No, it is not that way, because here what is the size of the switch? We are talking size of the area within the area of 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. What is the area or the surface area of the human body? It's really very huge. So for that area itself, this 150,000 kilometers is a very huge number. Now, if you scale up this one, the 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, actually the VLSI industry achieves 495,000 kilometers of wire length. Okay, so that means we are better than the human body. Okay, fine. So this is a typical wafer or the IC. Everything you see here, a small thing. Within this, okay, there is a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Okay, within this we have 1 million of transistors, and everything is processed at a stretch. I mean, it's a massively parallel system. At a stretch, in this kind of wafer, you have actually 120 billions of transistors. I mean, you make 120 billions of switches. Transistors, you can replace it with switches. The another name for the transistors, or the very purpose of the transistor, is nothing but a switch. So whatever, suddenly we were talking about the switches, and why this guy is suddenly talking about the transistors. It is nothing but the switch. Okay, so we are trying to put 120 billions of switches in this 300 or 30 centimeter diameter wafer. You can think about whenever you produce anything in mass, okay, naturally the cost will go down. Okay, it is even predicted. Okay, there is a funny calculation. You take the Hindu newspaper or Dinatandi or Dinamalar, any kind of newspaper, start counting the amount of characters. Okay, A, B, C, D, the newspaper, there are so many characters. Start counting the number of characters. Maybe for the newspaper, you may spend ₹5, okay, in order to get Hindu newspaper. So for one character, how many rupees you are spending? That's going to be really, really, really very, very, very small. Okay, so something like a point, something, some rupees. That's not only you are spending against one character in the newspaper. So it is predicted that for one transistor or the one switch, you are paying even smaller than this. That means you can understand how cheap the electronic industry has become. I mean, cheap means I'm talking about with respect to price or cost. Okay, so now let us go. What is an ideal switch? We are talking about the electrical switch. We want no current flow when the switch is off. So I hope this everybody agrees. So there is a voltage is applied here. When the switch is off, something like this, okay? So there is a fan here. Maybe this is a heater or fan or your induction stove or microwave oven, doesn't matter. When the switch is in the off state, you don't want any current in this circuit. The I has to be 0. Okay, when I is 0, that means what is the resistance in the circuit? Can anybody tell me? When the current is 0 in a circuit, what is the resistance of the circuit?
Infinity, sir.
Infinity. It has to be, because what is I? It is simply V by R. So I am saying I equal to 0. The only way you can make the I equal to 0 when you have applied some voltage, that we have already done. Okay, the R should be infinite. Okay, so that is what the characteristics you want to get from an ideal switch when the switch is in the off state. Okay, so this is modeled, or this is equivalent to this. There is a load, there is a voltage, there is an infinite resistance offered by the switch. So the current in this circuit is equal to 0. Okay, so that is the one of the thing. But this is not over. But when the switch is on, something like this, you want all the voltage applied across this, you want it to be available at this point. If there is a 230 volts here, so the total 230 volts should be available to your electrical or whatever the equipment you are talking about. So that means there should not be any voltage drop across the switch. Okay, so V has to be 0. Okay, so if the voltage drop across the switch has to be 0, despite the current flow, that means the resistance of the switch should be 0. I hope you all agree. Now you see how greedy we are. From the same switch, you want R equal to infinite. From the same switch, you are asking R equal to 0. When the switch is off, you want R equal to infinite. But what is there here is the one system. From this system, you are expecting infinite resistance. From the same system, when the system is in the other state, you are expecting R equal to 0. I mean 0 resistance. I mean really we are greedy. We are talking. We are okay. So when we are with respect to this particular scenario, okay, so that is what this kind of greedy mentality. So that is what is making our situation, our the total electronic industry that is putting into where we are putting the total electronic industry into the problem. Okay, so now let us move from ideal switch to real switch. What is that? No circuit is going to offer you infinite resistance. Okay, so if you put, when the switch is off, so if you put an ammeter or any kind of current measuring instrument, okay, which is really sensitive, okay, which can measure up to microamps or nanoamps, you will see there is a small current is displayed across in this meter. That means the R is not infinite. You can say R is very large. It is not infinite. Okay. So when I say R equal to large, it is not infinite. That means whatever may be that the large value, this V by R is going to give me a finite amount of current, which is not going to be 0. Okay. So in this circuit, I equal to 0. Okay. Whereas in this circuit, when I say R equal to large, okay, I is not going to be 0. So this is the first constraint or first problem when you talk about, when you come from ideal switch to real switch. Okay, so this is with respect to the off state. Now let us go to the on state. Now this, when I say on state, you want all the voltages to be applied across the voltage, across the load. But that's not going to happen. Why? Because the switch is made up of some material. Any material, however good it may be even not necessarily the switch is made up of copper. You can make a golden switch, or you can come up with any kind of material. But any kind of physical material you talk about, including the golden switch or any kind of material, that's going to offer you a small resistance. That means this voltage, whatever you apply V, it is not going to appear across the load little bit V minus delta. So where is this delta is going to drop? That delta will be dropping across this switch, and we want this delta to be very small. How do you make the delta to be small? You have to make this R is very small. That's all. Okay. So this we have moved from ideal switch to real switch. Okay. How do you now, let us put the input versus output characteristics. Okay. Let us even talk about the typical this switch we are talking about. Let us say the switches used to control our fan and other thing. This itself, let us talk about. What is the input to this switch? The input to this switch is the force. Okay. If you apply a bit of force, okay, maybe that force is not enough to flip the switch position from on to off or off to on. Let us say the switch is in the off state and you are trying to make it on. How? By applying a small force, but the force is not enough, so the switch is still in the off state. Okay, and you keep on increasing the force. Okay, at certain value of force, you will see the switch is suddenly changing its position, its state from the on state to off state. Once you are in the on state, everything is different. Okay, in the off state, what is the current flowing through the circuit? It is the voltage, okay, V divided by the load resistance or load and the resistance of the switch in the off state. So V divided by R off plus R load. So that is the current you will get. That is the small current. Whatever you see here, this current, how can you measure? If you know what is the resistance of the switch in the off state and what is the load resistance, they are in series. So try just sum it up, and V divided by the sum of that resistance will give you this value of that current. And this current is the small value of current. We call this current as a I off. Okay, or we can even call it as the leakage current. Okay, so you keep on increasing the force, the current remains at I off. At this value of force, you see here the current, the switch changes its position. Suddenly the current goes to the very high value. What is the very high value? V divided by R on plus load. Load resistance doesn't change. What is changing? The resistance across the switch. Now that is going from R off to R on. But R off, already we told that it's a very, very large value, and that is dropping to R on. So that means this total denominator is dropping. V divided by R on plus R load. So you get a significant increase in the current. And this current, we call it as a I on. Okay. So the current, when the switch is in the on state, that is called the I on. The current, when the switch is in the off state, that is called the I off. That's all. Okay. So now for the electrically controlled electrical switch, what do? Instead of this force, you will be talking about something called signal strength. Maybe it is a voltage or the current or the power. Instead of a mechanical force, the input controlling parameter will be voltage or current or something. So you apply a small voltage or the small current or the small electrical power, the switch is in the off state. So the switch is in the off state, the switch is in the off state, the switch is in the off state, off state, off state. At this particular value of voltage, the switch changes its position from off state to on state. From here to here, the position or the state of the switch is off state. From here onwards, the switch goes into on state. So naturally, the current in this region will be small. The current in this region has to be higher because of the R off and the R on of the switch is, they are actually magnitudes, orders of value. They are they differ in their values. So now, can you tell me, you all know now what is I off and what is I on. I have two different switches. Okay, one is offering you 1 microampere. Another is offering, another switch is offering you 0.5 microampere. Okay, that is the off current. This particular switch, the on current is 1 milliampere, whereas here the on current is 0.45 milliamps. Okay, so now there is a there is a confusion. You want very low I off, but at the same time you want very high I on. Okay, so now with respect to using the I off constraint, okay, will you select the switch 1 or the switch 2? Anybody can answer? Using the I off constraint, will you select switch 1 or the switch 2? Any volunteer? No? Okay, we said that I off, yes. Yeah, somebody is trying to answer. Please tell.
Second switch, sir.
Second switch. Why? Can you just reason out your answer?
Because it has minimum amount of current in 0.5 microamps.
0.5. That's very good. Now, just hold on. The same person. Suppose you go by the I on criteria. Okay, you want very high I on. Okay, so when the switch is in the on state. So with the I on constraint, can you tell me you are going to select a switch 1 or switch 2?
Switch 1, sir.
Okay, so now the question before the audience is, are we going to choose the switch 1 or are we going to choose the switch 2? Any volunteers? You are trying to answer? So now we have a confusion, right? If you go by the I off criteria, we are going to choose the switch 2. If you go by the I on criteria, we are going to select the switch 1. Can you tell me which switch we are going to select? The switch will not be always on. The switch will not be always off. It's going to go oscillate between on and off state. If that is the case, what do you want? You want the switch 1 or you want the switch 2? That's the confusion, right? Okay. So in order to solve that, there are many ways. Okay. So one way is, for the given I off, what is the I on? Okay. Or for the given I on, what is the I off? So what am I talking about is, either you can consider I on by I off, this ratio, or you can consider I off by I on, this ratio. Okay. So one of this ratio you can talk about. So typically we talk about I on by I off ratio. Both are one and the same. Okay. So now so you can go by this. For the given I off, what is the I on? That means what are you talking about is the I on by I off. That ratio should be high. Okay. So with that criteria, will you choose the switch 1 or switch 2? Again, audience. I on by I off. Who would like to answer from the students? Which is offering you good ratio of I on by I off? No, you are not understanding it? Okay, just quickly go through this. So you have I on equal to 300 microamps, I off equal to 10 nanoamps. What is your I on by I off? 30,000. Okay, and come here, I on equal to 500 microamps. Definitely I on is very high. Okay, you may be tempted to choose this switch, but what is the I off? You see, it is a 1 microamps. So what is the I on by I off ratio? It is 500. So we are not going to choose this particular switch. Okay, we are going to choose this particular switch. Even though it is offering you little bit on the on side, it is really performing better in the off state. That is why we talk about what is called as the I on by I off ratio. With the same thing, you can select same criteria. Okay, you can select the switch 1 or switch 2. You will come up with a perfect answer. There is no confusion at all. So basically what you want, what we have learned what is a switch and what is a real switch. So in the real switch, how do you select something is a good switch? How do you want to compare two real switches? We are going to use the metric called I on and I off. That's all. So if you calculate this ratio, the switch which is offering you the higher values of I on by I off, you can just pick it up, that switch. Okay, fine. Now I told there is a input and there is a output. Output is nothing but the flow control. In our case, it is a electrical current flow. So what is the input? It is a kind of voltage, okay, or current or power, anything related to electrical. Okay, so when you change the input, the switch was in the off state. At some point of input, the switch changes its position from off to on. So this particular point is called threshold. If this is the voltage, then this particular point is called threshold voltage. If this is the current, then that particular value of that particular point is called threshold current. That's all. Okay, so now you know what is the threshold. So now there is a one more non-ideality we would like to introduce. Okay, so apart from this I on and I off, already we come to ideal switch to real switch. An ideal switch, what will be the off current? It will be a very zero, not even small, it is a zero. Okay, so but that is missing here. So in that way, actually there is a small value of off current is there. So it is a real switch, but it is not, even this is not a real switch. Why? So there is a problem at the threshold. So the switch is in the off state till certain value of the controlling parameter. Okay, maybe this is a force or this is a voltage or anything. Okay, so at the threshold point, it doesn't jump to the on state immediately. Okay, next value of the threshold itself, the switch doesn't find itself in the on state. Rather, the change is gradual. Okay, as you keep on increasing the input voltage, it goes to the on state. Okay, through many points. It is not a digital change. Okay, here it is a digital change, but here it is not a digital change. It is a smooth transition from off state to on state, or the on state to off state. So this is the one more non-ideality. That is why I called really real switch. Okay, and this particular thing is called sub-threshold slope. If this slope is infinite, any vertical line, 90-degree line, what is the slope of the 90-degree line? Tan 90, so that's the infinite. But this is not a infinite, so it is a definitely some number, finite number. So this is called sub-threshold slope. The switch is trying to make the transition from off state to on state, but it goes through various points. It is not a digital change. Okay, and that various points, that behavior is captured through what is called as the sub-threshold slope. Okay, you want, okay, now again a good one question I'm trying to pose to the audience. Suppose I have a switch which is in the on state and which goes to the off state in this way, and I have another switch. Okay, I have another switch which goes to the off state in this way. Will you choose the switch 1 or the switch 2? Anybody wants to answer? There is a off state, so this is going from off state to on state. Okay, so this is the off state and this is the on state. And here again, this is the off state and this is the on state. Which you will choose? One goes this way, another goes this way. Which will you choose? S1 or S2? S1 or S2? And why?
S1, sir. Because
S1.
it takes some
Ah,
quick transitions.
okay. Tell me. Why do you choose S1? Anybody wants to answer? Why did somebody, of course, most of you would have chosen S1. I am pretty sure. Okay, even though you are not answering, you already knew the answer. Okay, but why do you choose S1? Why not the S2? Why do you want a quick transition? You see here, we want to operate the device or the system in a switch mode. Okay, so binary, a switch by definition, it has to have only two states, off state and on state. Okay, that is possible when you talk about the two states. So here it is the off state, here it is the on state. Now can you tell me what is the, how many states this switch has? Can you tell me here how many states it has? It has many states. Of course it has an off state, okay, and of course it has an on state, and apart from that there are so many intermediate states are there. And how are you going to put them? What is their states? You cannot classify them. That is why you want to have a quick transition. So in ideally you would like to have a digital transition, but that is no switch is going to give that particular kind of behavior. Okay, so here is just an example. So there is a I off and there is a I on. Okay, so there is something called the ugly switch. Okay, that is shown by the dotted line. Okay, so this one I am talking about. Okay, so ugly switch. Okay, and there is something called bad switch. Why it is a bad switch and why this is ugly? Would you like to answer? See, in the bad switch, the transition is more quicker compared to the uglier switch. Everybody starts from here, from this threshold. Uglier switch, it is reaching the I on state. In order to reach the I on state, it is taking this much. That means the whole this portion is waste. You cannot say the switch is neither in the off state nor in the on state. Off state is here, on state is here. But in between this, there are so many intermediate states. So it is offering you a very large range of unusable voltages or the range. If you look at the bad switch, only this much is the unusable range. If you look at the better switch, that is also giving you only the same range. But why do I say it is a good switch? Can anybody answer? Both the good switch and the bad switch, the range of unusable range is same. But I call this as a bad and this as a good. Can anybody say why? No? Okay. So you see here, what is flowing through the switch? The current is flowing through the switch. Now you see here, comparing the bad switch and comparing the good switch. Uglier switch anyway we are not going to talk about. Compare the good switch and the bad switch. Okay, which is going to dissipate less heat. Okay, obviously you will see the good switch is going to dissipate less heat or the less electrical power compared to the bad switch. So that is why, even though they are both are starting from the same point and they are reaching the same point within the same range, this is going in an exponential manner, whereas this is going in the linear manner. So we are going to choose the exponential manner switch, and that is called the good switch. Okay. So more, I think we can finish about the discussion on the switches. So now we move on to what is called as the part 2. Okay. as already I told, we are interested in electrically controlled electrical switch. Okay, we are not interested in the regular wall switch, which is the mechanically controlled electrical switch. Okay, do we have any device which controls the electrical flow, but the control is also electrical? That means electrically controlled electrical switch. There are so many, lot. Okay, some of the things are listed down here. BJT, bipolar junction transistor, MOSFET, JFET, tunnel FET, SCR, UJT, and the list is endless. I mean, there are many other devices are there which is going to offer you electrically controlled electrical switch, or all these devices can be used as a electrically controlled electrical switch. But you can see, you can observe only one of the device I have just put it inside the box, and that is the MOSFET. We are going to only concentrate on this particular device. Why? Again, there is a reason. Compared to the BJT or JFET or tunnel FET or SCR, UJT, this allows, okay, before telling the answer, why we are interested in electrically controlled electrical switch? Why are we not interested in mechanically controlled electrical switch? Can anybody say the answer? Both are electrical switches, but why are we interested on this? I already gave the answer. You have to just recall and tell me the answer. Any answer from the audience? Why are we interested in electrically controlled electrical switches? Why not mechanically controlled electrical switches? Something like this. I gave the answer. Come on, try. Okay, so only these switches can be made very compact. Okay, within a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Okay, so you can put 1 million electrically controlled electrical switches, which is not possible. Mechanically controlled electrical switches, it is not possible. Even if it is possible, and how are you going to control it? Okay, so that is the reason. So with the same reasoning, can you tell me why are we interested in MOSFET? Anybody would like to try the answer? Why are we interested? There are so many devices. Everybody can offer you electrically controlled electrical switch, but we are interested only in the MOSFET. Why? Okay, the answer is same. Okay, we can make the switch, we can make the device very compact. That's all. That is the answer. So why are we interested in electrically controlled electrical switch? Because they can be made very smaller. Even out of these devices, even though all of them can offer you compact level electrical switches, out of these, the MOSFET is the one which is allowing you to go to the very low dimensions, okay, and offers you electrically controlled electrical switches. So what is the MOSFET? It is trying to control the electrical current flow or the electron flow between 2 points. What are those 2 points? I call those 2 points as the source and drain. And who is controlling the electrical flow? The gate. Okay, how is it controlling? Because as already I told, it is a electrically controlled electrical switch. Will you apply the force to the gate, or will you apply the electrical signal to the gate? Since this is an electrically controlled electrical switch, I will be applying an electrical signal to this particular terminal. So gate is the one which controls the current flow between the source and drain. Okay, so here is the this is our MOSFET symbol. If you see what is the MOSFET symbol, this is the way you draw, right? This is the way you draw. That's all. This is our MOSFET symbol, and you try to understand why the MOSFET symbol looks like this, because it is trying to connect the source and drain. That's all. Okay, so how the MOSFET looks like, a schematic. So you have what is called as the semiconductor. Okay, why do we have to use the semiconductor? So that is another thing. Okay, I have to handle one more lecture, okay, so which we will not concentrate. Anyway, I'm using a semiconductor, okay. So, and I have what is called as the source, and I have what is called as the drain. So between the source and drain, I have applied some voltage. Source is connected to ground. This is connected to some voltage. Okay. Will there be any current flow? No. Unless or until you are going to apply a voltage to the gate, even though you have applied some voltage to the voltage across the source and drain, there won't be any current flow between them. Okay. So when you apply appropriate or sufficient voltage to this particular terminal called as the gate, then there is a connection. I mean, there is a current flow between source and drain, or this way, depending upon what is called, we call it as a N-type or P-type devices. Okay. We keep on reducing the dimension of this particular device. Why? There are two reasons. So when you produce a bigger switch within the given area, you will put or you will accommodate maybe 1,000 switches. Suppose I made this switch really very small, something like this. Okay. So then within the same area, I may be able to put 10,000 switches. So suppose I make it still smaller, maybe I can put 100,000 switches, okay, 100,000 such kind of devices in the same area. Okay, so that is one of the reason. Within the same area, you can just accommodate more and more number of switches. What is the use of accommodating more and more amount of switches in the small area? Compactness. Okay, so that's all. You know, all the addition, subtraction, multiplication, everything you take, you can achieve it through what is called as the binary. A switch is nothing but a binary. Okay, so that means whatever the mathematical operations you tell me, you achieve it through the MOSFET, and the MOSFET is operating as a switch. And what is happening to this MOSFET as a time? Okay, once upon a time in the 1980, the MOSFET dimension was 5 micron cross 5 micron. Okay, so after some time, the dimensions went on decreasing, and the MOSFET at this particular point, I mean today, what we are talking about is something like 100 nanometer by 100 nanometer. Okay, 0.1 by 0.1. Once upon a time, it was a 1 micron by 1 micron, 10 micron by 10 micron, maybe in the year of 1980, it was a 10 micron by 10 micron. Even people say that with a good eyesight, you can see the MOSFET in the 8080. Okay, that's true. But nowadays, in the Pentium processor or any kind of titanium, plutonium, there are so many other processors, you won't be able to see because they are all in the nanometer region. Okay, you won't be able to see them. Okay, fine. So what is the problem? Actually, what happens when you make the MOSFETs really very small, all the way from 100 micron or 10 micron to 0.1 micron, even below that 65 nanometer, okay, 0.01 micron people are talking about. Okay, what happens actually? This ion by IF ratio, once upon a time, it was 10 power 6. Sorry. Okay, once upon a time, the ion by IF ratio was 10 power 6. Okay, and it was 10 power 6 and for very long time, something like 1995, okay, the ion by IF ratio was maintained at 10 power 6. But 1995 onwards, okay, what is happening? The switches are going down, okay, with respect to dimensions. This ratio, ion by IF ratio, slightly they started coming down. Okay, so now if you can get something like 1,000, okay, ion by IF ratio, people say it is really very good. It's a good switch. Okay, once upon a time, our ion by IF ratio was 10 power 6. Okay, so now what is the ion by IF ratio? Even if you can get 10 power 3, it is considered as a good switch because the MOSFETs have come down so small, it is very difficult to control the leakage current. Okay, so who is actually responsible for this ion by I of reduction? You see here in the MOSFET, already we saw there are three terminals: source, drain, and gate. Who is responsible for controlling the current? And I mean, who is controlling the electrical flow between the source and drain? The gate is the one which is trying to control the electrical flow. Even though you apply some voltage to drain, the current should not flow through this device. But what happens actually, as you reduce the dimension of this device, what happens to this source and drain? They are very close. Okay, something like this. Okay, compared to this is very close. What happens actually? A gate still controls the current flow from source to drain, but the drain also is starting to control the current flow. I mean, the moment you apply the drain voltage, some amount of significant amount of current starts flowing from the source to drain, which you don't want unless until there is a gate voltage. Even though you have applied the drain voltage, you don't want any current between the source and drain. But unfortunately, as the MOSFETs are going down, this scenario is not true. I mean, the ion by I of ratio is going to go down actually. Okay, so what is actually happening? When the MOSFET or the device dimensions are going down, two things. One is actually ion by I of ratio degrades. That means your switch is becoming a bad switch. From the good switch, it is coming to bad switch. And apart from these things, you can all recall what is reliability. With respect to reliability, I would like to just introduce you to the electrical field. What is the electrical field? If there are two plates, I mean, if you apply the voltage between 2 points, and what is the electrical field? Suppose you apply voltage V and this plate is grounded. For this plate, you apply a voltage V, and the distance between them is D. Okay, so how do you calculate the electrical field? V by D. Okay, if the distance between these two plates are decreasing, what is happening to the electrical field? That's going to go up. Okay, very high electrical fields you will introduce. Exactly, that is what is happening in our MOSFET. You see here, this is the distance, and you have applied voltage between drain and source. And now in this figure, you see this is the distance, and in this figure, you see this is the distance. So the same voltage, if you apply say 5 volts, you apply the 5 volts to this device, and you apply the 5 volts to this device. Okay, you apply 5 voltage to this device. Okay, so what happens? This device will be experiencing really a high field compared to this device, and that will relate in what is called as the reliability issues. That is what we call it as the high field issues. Okay, there are so many things. Your switch becomes unreliable. Not only the switch is becoming bad, you cannot rely on the switch. Suddenly the switch may fail. Okay, so that is what is the unreliable switch. So when you try to accommodate more and more electrically controlled electrical switches, or with other name MOSFETs, okay, within the given area, what happens? Your MOSFET performance or your switch performance is going down with respect to ion by I of ratio, also with respect to reliability. Okay, so to some extent, this reliability issue can be taken care by reducing. Whenever you reduce the distance, you also reduce the voltage, so that you can keep the field constant. If you keep the field constant, then the reliability issue will not come into picture. Okay, but now you see here, you have reduced from 5 voltage to 1 volt. Okay, then you have reduced 1 to 0.9 volts. Okay, so then all the way from 0.9 volts to 0.6 volts. Till how long you can go? Okay, at some point you cannot reduce the voltage at all, but you will be keep on reducing the dimensions of the switch. So that is what is a problem. Okay, so now the whole thing, you just try to understand using the traffic control. So there is a traffic junction. Okay, so this traffic police is trying to control the traffic flow. If the traffic is increasing, you will see, you will start seeing there are traffic violations. Okay, so what are the traffic violations? Even before he gives the signal, somebody from here to here, they just come here actually. Okay, so basically one policeman or the one traffic police is not able to handle the traffic scenario. What can we do? Do you propose any solution from the audience? Traffic is increasing and that there is a traffic flow. Okay, so traffic flow is increasing and there are traffic violations. One policeman is not able to control the traffic flow. Can you suggest a solution? It is not related to electrical or electronic. It is a simple common sense question. How can you reduce the traffic violations if one policeman is not able to control?
Increasing the manpower.
That's all. So simple, common sense. Instead of one person controlling the traffic flow, let us put one more police person, one more traffic police, so that the traffic violations are kept under the limit. Okay, so even then there will be traffic violations, but they are kept under the limit in order to avoid this one. Basically, as the traffic increases, police starts losing the control over the traffic. How to gain the control over the traffic? Introduce one more traffic police. So the vigilance increases, the violations decreases. That's all. Let us go to the electronic, come to our story. Gate has lost the control over the channel. Channel means where the current has to flow. Okay, so that is what we call it as the channel. Okay, so now with the same analogy, one gate is not able to control the current flow. So now what can we do? You introduce one more gate, that's all. Okay, so one gate is not controlling the flow. Okay, between there is a source, okay, and there is a drain. Across this you have applied the voltage. There was one gate which was trying to control, but it is not able to do the perform its job perfectly. What can you do? You put one more gate. That's all over. Okay, don't think it's in terms of physical. Okay, how can we put one more gate? That is the next question. So instead of one gate, you put one more gate. Then you enter into what is the domain called multi-gate devices. Under the multi-gate devices, you have so many devices called FinFET, Tri-Gate, Quadruple Gate, Surround Gate. There are silicon nanowire, silicon nanofed. There are so many things. Okay, so put one more gate. Where? That is the next question. Okay, so this is the gate terminal. Okay, so where can I put the next gate? Okay, I will put the next gate here. So this is the source. I mean, this is the source, and this is the drain, and this is the channel region. Whenever the voltage is applied to gate, here will be a connection between the source and drain, so that the current flow exists between the source to drain or drain to source. Okay, depending upon whether it is a N type or the P type. Now I want to introduce one more gate. Where can we introduce? Now there is a back thing. Okay, there is a substrate. So you remove this substrate and bring your substrate contact closer to this and introduce one more gate here. That's what I have done here exactly. So there are two gates. Now they are trying to control the current flow between the source and drain. So compared to this device, okay, compared to this device, okay, this device will be offering you better I on by I off. Okay, so that is the stuff. Okay, and this particular concept leads to what is called as the multi-gate devices. Okay, so there is a substrate. Okay, there is a SiO2 on which SiO2 is an insulator, so no current flows here. It's just a mechanical support. Here is a channel. Okay, so what am I doing? I am putting a 2 gates on the side. Okay, and then there are source and drain. So the current is flowing from source to drain in this way or this way through this channel. Okay, so now how many gates are trying to control the thing? There are 2 gates, one on this side, one on the other side. Okay, the 2 sides. So this is called as the FinFET. So the structure or the cross section of the FinFET, or it is also known as the double gate device. Instead of single gate, okay, 2 gates from the sideways, one is here and another is here. They are trying to control the current flow between the source and drain. Now we can also have tri-gate, okay, and quadruple gate, pi gate. There are so many variations that exist in the literature. Okay, there is a surround gate, okay, and there is a circular gate. Okay, so your channel is the circular. So this is the source side and this is the drain side. Throughout the thing at this particular place, you have one more cylinder and everything is going to act like a gate, and that is called the surround gate structures. Okay, there are with many variations. Okay, so that is the one solution when to get a good switch, to get a good MOSFET. Okay, so now there is another variation. There is something called, if you would have seen the MOSFET, okay, so the MOSFET basically, the MOSFET uses what is called as the P-type substrate and N plus source and N plus drain. That is the structure of the MOSFET. Okay, so now there is a PN junction here and there is a PN junction here. Okay, getting the PN junction is really a very challenging job. In fact, you can say the amount of money, whatever you pay towards getting the 8085 is goes 95% of the money is going towards this getting this simple PN junction. Okay, so now there is a pioneering research. Suppose I remove, if I have a device which is not going to offer you, which is going to operate without any junction. That means that is called as the junctionless devices. Okay, so what is the junctionless devices? Okay, okay, in order to understand the junctionless devices, you have to understand one thing. Consider a copper conductor which is shown in this figure. Apply the voltage between this end and this end. Will the current flow? Any answer? I took a copper conductor and I apply a voltage. Will the current flow? Any answer? Come on, it's a very simple thing. I have a copper conductor and you apply some voltage across this. Will the current flow? That is the question. Okay, typically we say that current flows. All of you will say the current flow, but the answer depends upon various things. You cannot say. Okay, it depends upon what is the surrounding medium. What is the surrounding medium here? Here the surrounding medium is the air. What is the frequency of the applied voltage? Okay, so depending upon many things, whether the current will flow through the conductor or not. Okay, so now there is something called work function. Okay, what is the work function? You all know what is called as the conduction band. Okay, EC. You all will know about what is called as the valence band. Okay, EV. You all will know about, I think, what is Fermi level. Okay, so that is what is depicted here. Now, how the work function is defined? The work function is defined as how, if you want to remove one electron from the material, how much energy you have to spend. That is called the work function. Okay, so there is a EC and there is a EV. There is what is called as the vacuum level. What is the energy required to remove one electron from this material completely out to the vacuum level? Okay, so that is nothing but the difference between the vacuum level to EF. Okay, so this work function will be different for different materials. For example, copper Cu Curram will have some kind of work function. Aluminium, higher work function. Gold, okay, so that will be very low work function. So that is why gold is a very good conductor. Okay, so now you assume this. I take a simple semiconductor. There are no junctions. If there are no junctions, okay, so then as soon as you apply the voltage, the current will start flowing. No, not necessarily. It depends upon, as we have told, what is the surrounding. What is the surrounding here? The surrounding, there is some material here. Okay, so there is a insulator here. So these two surrounding materials, what is the work function of this and what is the work function of this together, that decides what is whether the current will flow through this or not. If it is a air, and if you take simple n-type semiconductor, what is the surrounding here? It is the air. So the current will definitely flow. Suppose if I put some other material closer to this one, okay, so that then the current, I can make the current not to flow from the source to drain. Exactly, that's what we are going to use. Okay, so you have a N plus material and you have a gate material. They are two different materials. Okay, so if you can make the work function of the material greater than the work function of this one, so then the current will not flow here. So if you can make the p-type, if you are going for a p-type device, everything is p. So if these things are not there, current will flow as soon as you apply a voltage to drain. But if this thing is here and if you satisfy this condition, the work function of the gate is smaller than the work function of the p-type substrate, okay, channel, so then the current will not flow. Okay, that means what you have achieved is the off state. Now, how do you obtain the on state? You apply a voltage, a positive voltage to the gate, and you will make the current to flow. And you apply a negative voltage, and current will flow from source to drain. Okay, so this is called a junctionless device. Okay, so what are the advantages? Since there are no junctions, easy fabrications. So, and also I on by I off ratio, and that is called as the short channel effects, because at the lower dimensions only you get the I on by I off ratio degrades, and that effect is called the reduction in the I on by I off, that is called the short channel effects. Okay, so next we have what is called as the tunneling device. So this completely uses a different kinds of mechanism, okay, in order to get the source to drain current flow. That uses what is called as the tunneling mechanism. Okay, so let me not, due to the time constraint, let me move on to the next device, what is called as the reconfigurable device. That is a very most recent device. Okay, with that we will finish this session. So in the MOSFET, for the p-type and for the n-type, you had two different devices. There was a p MOSFET and there was a n MOSFET, two different devices. Okay, what is ORFET? The device will be same, but it will act like a p-type or it will act like a n-type depending upon the voltages applied to this program gauge. That means it is a programmable device. You apply the positive voltage to this will be acting like a n-type device. You apply the negative voltage to this and this, it will be acting like a p-type device. That means you are reconfiguring this device as a p-type and n-type. So what it is essentially using, it is using what is called as the silicide materials. Okay, what is a silicide? It is neither a metal nor a semiconductor. It is a combination of what is called as the metal plus a semiconductor. When at high temperatures, metal plus semiconductors at high temperatures, they give you what is called as the silicide. They fuse together and they give you a new material called silicide. There can be many silicides depending upon what is the kind of metal you use. Okay, you use the copper and silicon. Silicon is a semiconductor. You get what is called as the copper silicide. You can also use the aluminum with silicon. You can get a aluminum silicide. You can also use a gold, and that becomes a gold silicide. Okay, so this particular combination, just in the case of MOSFET, you see here, I am using two different devices for the N-type and P-type. But for the case of ORFET, what I have done, I have not changed anything. I have simply changed the voltages applied to the PG, that means the programmable gate. I have achieved what is called as the N-type operation and P-type operation. The only problem with the ORFET is they offer the so-called on current is not sufficient actually. Okay, off current is very low, but the on current is also very low. Okay, so that is what is the ORFET, and the detailed thing I have just left out. Okay, because if anybody is interested, you can approach me through the mail or through Markandan or anybody. So that finishes our lecture on what is called as the CMOS to ORFET. Okay, we started with what is called as the switch, and we started with basically the MOSFET switch, and we ended with what is called as the reconfigurable switch. Okay, any questions?
Participants, any questions? So thank you, sir. That was a great session, sir.
Thank you.
Started from switch. I have few questions, sir. I have
yes,
few doubts on
yes.
behalf of my students. I will ask.
Sure.
Okay, sir. Since some undergraduate students are interested to any free open source tools to design this, they want some open source tools for VLSI design.
Okay, VLSI design means it is a very big area. One is called actually device area. Okay, I will put it this way. There is a device kind of research, and there is something called circuit kind of research or circuit design, and there is something called system design. Okay, so VLSI design can be classified into device design, circuit design, and system design. Okay, so circuit design, most of the final year ECE students or the PG students, they will be using it, something like Tanner Spice, HSpice, ADS. They are not actually free tools, they are all cracked versions. People definitely must be using that. Even the college also may have the licensed version. So that is a circuit design. So here you cannot do any kind of serious device research. Of course, to some level you can do. Okay, so some kind of device design you can do at the circuit using the circuit simulators also. Okay, system level VLSI designs, you can use the MATLAB or even any there are other things also. Device level, you have to use what is called as the CAD tools, or specifically it is called as the technology CAD tools are there actually. Okay, there are some TCAD tools, free softwares available, something like I remember what is called as the CyberCAD. Okay, there is that kind of free tools are there actually. They allow you to design the device. Okay, so that is the thing actually. It all depends in which area you want to work: device design, circuit design, or the system design.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have one more question, sir. Since
Yes.
our PG students, they are involving, just now they are going to start, sir. Since you are specialized in image processing also, is there any way we can combine image processing and VLSI together?
Yeah. People.
What are the ways we can do it?
Yes. People regularly do that. See, you do many things at the image processing level, but they are all very slow actually. So once they are actually hardware implemented in the FPGA or something. Okay, so basically it is like implementing the the algorithm, image processing algorithm on a Xilinx FPGA or something. So accordingly, you will play with the FPGA system, also with the algorithm. That will be a kind of in between. Okay, intermediate. Okay, in between you can play around, so you can couple the image processing with the VLSI design. This regularly happening. That is why you see so many improvement in the TV and other things. Yes, graphical processors, everything, they combine the image processing and the VLSI.
Can you suggest some areas among these combined?
Okay, so one area already I think I told. Do you have access to Xilinx? If any kind of Xilinx?
Yes, sir.
FPGA?
Yes,
maybe what you can do, yeah, okay, maybe you can talk about the video encoding. Typically we talk about video encoders, okay, because video is a streaming application, so they are of the very high data rate. So typically we encode the video and we save it. This encoding is done, can be done at the software level or at the hardware level, something like a Xilinx. Okay, so maybe you can use a video encoders, decoders design using the Xilinx. So that will be a one area where image processing and VLSI are coming into picture, coming together.
Sure. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
participants, any questions? Any more questions? Since there is no questions, we can wind up, sir. Sir,
okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for accepting it, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for.
Thank you. I'll keep in touch, sir.
Yes. Okay, I'm leaving the meeting.
Yes,
thank you. Thank you, everybody.